Welcome back to the Grappling Growth podcast with me, Joe Testori. On today's podcast, I was met by an inspiring lady, Emma Armstrong. Now, to dive into this podcast, I would recommend going to the last 3 minutes of the podcast and listening to what Emma has to say. 3 years ago, Emma was paralysed. She was in hospital paralysed for 6 months and in an induced coma for 3 months. She couldn't do anything, literally. She could just move her eyes. And that has helped her gain a massive, great, happy perspective on life. Someone who was raised on a farm and now runs a consultancy that turns over £1.3 million in 2024 and is growing. They're an award-winning consultancy and resourcing partner and are delving into tech like nothing, which is incredible and lines up with the Intelligent Edge series for this podcast, where we speak to founders who are innovating within their space. She is the founder and managing director of Empro, based in Birmingham, where I went to university, and she is the non-executive director of growth and strategy for mytender.io. I don't want to say any more about this podcast. Just go watch it.
As entrepreneurs, we all experience challenges in our business journey. I'm Joe Testori, and the Grappling Growth podcast is my attempt at documenting my entrepreneurial journey while building my brands. I sit down with fellow entrepreneurs, understanding how they grapple with growth. I hope you find value and enjoy.
Emma, welcome to the show. It seems like you've had a massively busy week.
Oh my God, yeah, very, very busy. Probably one of the busiest I've had for a while, actually, but all for good reason.
Amazing. Emma, what does growth look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a couple of things going through my head, and I think the first thing that comes out in my mind is like personal growth and how you develop personally. And the reason I think that's sticking out is probably because that's more prominent to me in my journey and what I've had to learn pretty much over the last, say, 18 months. My learning curve's been quite steep. So my personal growth has been around kind of developing the business and all that, and all of the kind of business elements. But, you know, if I'm thinking about it from a practical sense in terms of what do I see as the business, actually, business growth can be headcount, it can be revenue, it can be customers, it can be products. There's so many elements you can fit into that. But I think, yeah, for me, it's about people and it's about development and it's about their journeys.
You mentioned the last 18 months there's been a steep learning curve of growth. What things have you had to really work on and have you been working on?
So when you start a business, I mean, you can have all the training and education and qualifications. They're all fantastic, but nobody sits you down. When it's your own business and you're scaling, people don't sit you down and say, this is what's going to happen and this is what you're going to do. You're kind of left to your own devices. And if you're in a big corporate, you've got the bubble wrapper of kind of all of that support around you. But when you're on your own, you don't have that. And that's one of the things that I've been really kind of focusing on over the last year, because actually there's so much that happens in a business that you don't necessarily think of. When you look at a business externally, you see brands, you see people, but actually there's so many facets that go into a business and how you develop it: finance, HR, people, your processes, what you stand for, what's your vision, your products, your customers, even the geographies that you operate in, different legislation. There's like so much that goes into that. And I think probably my weakest area is, and I'm really open about this and everybody knows this about me, like finances. I'm not a bean counter. I'm not great with that side of things. And I think for me, having a business that's grown from kind of, you know, finance values wise turnover from 500 grand in 2023 to like 1.3 million last year, getting my head around cash flow and forecasting and, you know, where are things due and when's money coming in, when's money going out, and kind of all of that element of a business. Because we've grown so quickly, that's been quite painful. And I think one of the things I learned very quickly at the start of last year was around, I can't remember the word for it now, overtrading. There we go. So overtrading is when you grow so quickly, actually your kind of costs or your cost base outgrows kind of what your current cash flow is. And that happened to me last year. And before, nobody sits you down and explains what that is, but I've had to learn by virtue of going through that process. So, I mean, now, today, I know every single penny, every single pound, when it's coming in, when it's going out. If you'd have asked me that last year, I wouldn't have had a clue. And so, yeah, I've had to kind of develop and learn with that really quickly, which is not one of the things you want to be exposed on, really. You'd probably be exposed in other areas. finance probably isn't one of those. So that's been the biggest thing for me to kind of get my stuff together in the last like 12 to 18 months.
And with that, have you all self-learned, or have you pulled in a coach or an expert to show you this from this?
No, with self, I found sometimes if you've got somebody externally, whilst that's great, you need really the right people around you like all the time, because somebody coming and looking in as an external and giving you a little bit of advice here and there, they're not living and breathing the day to day. And it's only for that snippet in time. And whilst, you might have somebody really experienced give you some great advice, it needs to be more regular than that. And particularly if you're like growing really, really quickly, things will change that rapidly. If you don't see someone for a month or a couple of weeks, the situation can be totally different. And I think one of the things that I reflected on from last year is I really love developing people and taking them on the journey, but I probably did a little bit too much of that previously.
How so?
It's probably like a lack of experience in the team. So if you're going to scale a business, you want people that can scale and can cope with that. Particularly in a startup, it's not a 9 to 5. As much as it would be lovely to have a normal 9 to 5, a startup isn't going to be that place. It's going to be high energy, fast paced. You're all in it together and you want to make it work. And I think it's also in a startup, you're probably quite exposed. So if you can't keep up with that, it's very obvious. And that can be quite challenging for people. And it can be quite challenging as a business owner and a leader, because you realise that where people's limitations are. And that's probably, again, that's one of the things that I've probably not enjoyed really as part of growing a business, is you realise that, you have people in the business that probably won't be there forever. And that's quite sad, when you've got quite close relationships with people. And again, that's something I've had to really understand and overcome. And interestingly, I went to a Q&A talk at Gymshark with Ben Francis, and I think I was feeling really guilty about that. I'm quite an empathetic person, and I was really lucky to get a couple of minutes with him, and he was talking about that, and he said he's had exactly the same, and actually different businesses need different mindsets and personalities and drive at different points in the journey, and he's had the same. It's totally normal. So that made me feel, that it's not me, and it's pretty normal. But yeah, again, no one sits you down and tells you that, so it's quite interesting to learn and kind of go through that journey.
It sucks when you have to let someone go who is by roots an amazing person, but for the function, for the essence of the business, just isn't the right fit. And I've had that challenge as well. I'd like to think I'm an empath. You've got someone there who you really like, but you've had to let them down and just say, I'm really sorry, but... And I've had it before where someone's on the phone to me crying and asked for me to change my decision, but you can't. At the end of the day, and this is a thing I've had to wrestle with, is you need to put the business's needs before that of people. And sometimes you have leeway. You think, okay, or mentally you give yourself and you say, all right, I'm going to give this person an extra 4 to 8 weeks, but then you realize, I think when you're deliberating that's the decision when you have to make it then and there. It's not a thing to let it go. You're just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, no, do you know what? You've just said kick the can, and my husband said this to me all the time. It's like, you're just kicking the can. But that's my nature. Like the people that I work with, I form really close relationships with, and when you're scaling a business, it's generally like you're all really close to each other. And I think one of the things that's become quite apparent to me is there's a difference between leading the business and managing the people in the business. And whilst I'm better at leading the business, I'm terrible at managing the people in the business, because it's such a conflict trying to do both, because you're trying to go and sell this vision and map that out and talk to clients and take the team with you. But actually, when you have a difficult conversation or need to manage certain things, doing those two roles at once is quite challenging, and you don't really realise that until you're doing it, and you do need that layer of separation. So we've now got like a really, really, really strong like leadership team, and we've got people looking after different parts of the business that I just don't have to get into that in as much detail anymore, which gives me more time to kind of go and do what I'm good at, which is speaking about the business and speaking about what I'm passionate about. But yeah, it's been one of the biggest challenges for me, because it's not in my nature to be like that. So I found that really difficult, and I probably still do, and I probably still will have that challenge. But I think I've got to put that down to personality trait rather than anything else.
I was going to say, I was going to ask that. It sounds as though you're the head teacher, and then you've got the heads of departments in each place, and then you've got the students, and then managing like that. But then why I use the example of a head teacher is the best head teachers. I had an amazing head teacher in my secondary school, but he knew pretty much every student's name for verbatim. And if you have that relationship, you feel known. His name was Mr. Desarg. He's such an amazing guy. But you'd go along and he'd shake your hand and give you a high five and tell you to put your shirt in. And I'm sure you're not telling people to tuck their shirts in at work. But the connection there, whereby you have that degree of separation, and I think I've struggled with that personally, whereby I've got people managing other people, but then I overstep because I feel that maybe I can help out, and it's not in any bad way. It's just, I just want to give a bit extra. But then the most important position for yourself within the company is to be the leader, is to be the person making the connection, because without you making those connections, the business is going to slow down, and that's your 10x opportunity as opposed to focusing on 2x opportunity. And that's the dichotomy I've really worked on within mine. So just talk to me. You mentioned really impressive growth from 500k a year in 2023 to 1.3 million pounds, which is amazing. What's the vision look like for the next 12, 18 months with the business?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. And you know what? I looked at this probably back end of last year, so in like December 24. I thought, well, if we carry on at the same rate and we follow that forward, we're going to be looking at like 2 mil plus this year. And ironically, we've looked at our kind of Q1 and where we're at, and we're on track to do that, which I was a bit nervous about because I thought like that's not sustainable growth, in my opinion. I think that's great. Business owners will think, wow, that's amazing, can we have some of that? But it's quite challenging to manage that constantly because that is significant growth, and it's uncomfortable at times. And it's also quite difficult because the more we grow, the further away I get from the actual job. So I get further away from the customers, I get further away from projects, I get further, the team grows, and as you get bigger, there's only so much of you that you can split across the business. But when we looked at kind of, what this year was going to look like, I think we're aiming for about 1.8. And the reason I didn't want to go for over 2 was because I don't want that growth to be as aggressive as it has been. I probably would get shot by a business person for saying this, but I want it to be sustainable. And even so, getting from 1.2 or 1.3 to 1.8, that's still a big jump in year. That's still really impressive. It's like 50% still. So yeah, I think we're on target to hit that currently. And the way we've looked at it is kind of working back from that number. So if that's the number, if we pedal backwards from that, what does that look like? What does that look like per quarter? What does that look like for our different verticals? And what do we need to do ahead of that to make that happen? Whereas we didn't do that last year and it was just chaotic growth, this year is a little bit more structured, and that's probably being generous. It's very structured. We've got a really great team. Everybody's kind of on board. We've got objectives. Everything's lined up. The business is ready now, and I think we could quite easily manage that. Whereas last year, probably we've been bootstrapping. So every time we make money, I've reinvested in the business, which is why it's been growing so quickly, because everything gets pulled back in. But there's probably an element of needing to kind of consolidate and just, have a level of stability, because if we keep growing and we keep developing at the rate that we are, it's difficult to map out what that's going to look like in 18 months, let alone like 5 years time. And that's the bit that I'm trying to probably get a bit more understanding of at the minute.
I really think that explosive growth without the right foundations is like building a house on sand. You're just consistently looking to top stuff up that eventually, if you, or like Jenga, you pull one piece away, everything will collapse. And it's about taking a step back. And I think you said you get shot by business owners, but I really think the smartest business owners understand that they need to take a step back, take some time. And if you look at the automotive industry, pharmaceuticals, they spend years building the product. Tech companies, they focus massively on R&D, and then it's like a slingshot, and that's where they can grow massively. And But the most valuable companies in the world right now are tech companies, and it's because they've built something that's sustainable. They've built a stack of tech which can just build layers and layers and layers with incremental costs, as opposed to if you look at construction company, quite often their project. I mean, you know better than I did because you work with tons of construction companies, but they work in a way where they just try to bring in as much work as possible. They don't really know their margins. One job they're making 30% on, the next they're making 3% on, and they're stressed because they've got no linear progression with what they're doing. They're just hawking everything out that they can find. So that's where I find what you're doing to be really forward thinking.
Yeah, I think the lovely thing about our business, but it also is a challenge. So we've got three elements. So we've got a project business, a recruitment business, and a technology business. So the recruitment is a constant because of the nature that it's target driven. So we've got like a sales team delivering services to customers. The projects business is a little bit more agile. So we can be really, really busy and have like 10, 15 projects on at once. And then it can go right down to like 2. So managing the like peaks and troughs, it is very kind of up and down. And you know, with recruitment, that, you know, the industry can be really challenging. It's really competitive. I like to think that we're really good at it because that's a value add for us, and we're not just typically an agency. We do other things as well. But in the technology side, we're selling software as a service that's more giving us annuity revenue. So you'd sign up for a package for a period of time. So that helps us give a level of stability as well. So the three things together really work, but it's taken us quite a while to kind of find our rhythm and get there. And one of the things I've been really keen to do, because I'm a consultant and a project manager at the end of the day, that's kind of what I've been built to do. So we've got a really slick tech stack. So everything that supports our business is fully integrated, really well oiled, really well developed. So everything links together. And I think, you know, we've spent a lot of time doing that and getting it right. And that's really going to help us, you know, when we do decide to push the button and go a little bit further, that we've got everything in the right place. And I think unless you get that right, you would implode, because if you started to pour into something that's already broken, it's just going to make it worse. So we've spent quite a lot of time doing that, but that's alongside developing people, developing clients. So you can imagine, you know, I'm not even got one business, I've got 3. So my brain is constantly like all over the place, like fireworks going off, trying to bring it all together. But I absolutely love what I do, and I wouldn't change it for a second. And I think that's probably one of the things of why we've been so successful, because I absolutely love the business and I love our clients and I love what we do.
They say the man who loves walking walks further than the man who just has to walk for the sake of walking. And that's the thing I massively connect with what you're saying there. If I can never run a beauty salon because I don't care anything about a beauty salon. Whereas the girl who lives and breathes it, and her TikTok feed is that at 9 o'clock in the evening, and she's looking at how to master techniques at the early stages, she's going to be far better than I would be. I'm intrigued. You mentioned the tech stack of the business and the tech offering that you offer to clients as a SaaS product. What does that look like?
So one of the projects that we did a couple of years ago, we actually solutioned a technology product for one of our customers, and it dealt with a really challenging situation, and we came up with a proposal that was around a software solution. And we delivered that. Bear in mind, we'd never done it before. We'd never developed technology or anything like that. And we built a portal and a training program that can be delivered on a PDA, so phone. We did it 8 weeks end to end. So we had to get all of the design, the technology. We had developers. We even had to do things like get data access requests and GDPR policy, all the bits that go into a technology business. We did it in about 8 weeks, and we deployed this solution with the customer, and it totally transformed their account. So they went from having quite a challenging environment, their challenging KPIs, to actually having 0 KPI failures. And to this day, they've still got 0 failures 2 years later. And that was really the start of us getting into developing software and developing technology. And I would say we use AI, but we use it in quite an intelligent way. So we don't use like ChatGPT and check things. We actually use the software to develop onboarding videos, we make avatars of our clients, we turn contracts into games, so like gamification. And because we use software to do it, we can actually be really clever with how we do things and be really creative. And also, again, because we use technology, we use AI to kind of do language translation. So a lot of our clients will be big facilities management companies, and they'll have cleaning contracts or security contracts or with other providers who might not necessarily have English as a first language within their employees. So again, because it's digitally driven and because it's all rich text, we can actually change language really easily, like the click of a button.
Yeah.
So we made it really accessible, and I think we saw such success from that, and we don't think anyone else in the industry has done this within our kind of sector. It's been a really popular product, and we just continue to build that. And we do quite a lot of brainstorming around it, and we keep adding to it. So we've got like a product portfolio now, we've got lots of add-ons, and we've like packaged it up as an offering, and we're now going out to market and position it with other people. And everybody that we've sat down and has seen it has said this is an amazing idea, and was no one ever done this before. So it's a bit one I'm really proud of, but yeah, it's quite exciting actually, all the things you can do with AI and how you can develop it and how you can position it to help people in their day to day.
It sounds amazing, and I think, as you said, I feel there's this narrative that AI is coming to take everyone's jobs, but done effectively, it helps you become more efficient. It enables opportunities, and it eradicates problems that the human eye or tech 10 years ago would not have been able to predict or detect. And those, I think, are some of the biggest values and benefits. So the product right now, is it pretty much off the shelf and then you can just tailor a few things, or is it, how bespoke is the nature of it?
Yeah, well, it actually won an award for best personalisation tool. So what we've built it as now, we've got like a demo account, which is all in our branding. But if a customer buys the app of us, we white label it every time. So it looks like the customer, it's, and anybody that's in it would ultimately think it's a client app. But it's all about the individual who's using it, and it's all about their journey. So it's predominantly built for, there's something in the UK called TUPE legislation. So if you've got a contract that changes hands or changes provider, all of those people that currently deliver that service, their jobs are protected by TUPE. So what our app does is engages people, does right to work, does bank verification, and it's really personal to them about their experience. And that's why it's different, it's because it's concerned about the individual and making sure that they understand and that it's in a format accessible to them, and it's in a language that they prefer and all that good stuff. So yeah, our clients have seen it as a really big and impressive tool, because actually you can use it then to scale. So if you're a business and you're looking to acquire another business and you're doing an M&A process, it's the same. You would still go through a TUPE process. So it's like a change management tool. It's how you can kind of engage big numbers of people and get a consistent message across, also a consistent experience, and attract people into your business. So the interesting thing with TUPE is you don't have to transfer. You can go, I don't like you, I don't want to work for you, I'm going to go work somewhere else. So in a market where you've got skill shortages, talent shortages, particularly in construction, right, and FM, engineering, age demographic, a lot of people are going to be leaving the sector. I think we need to do more to kind of bring people into that. So yeah, I see it as a growing thing, and having a recruitment business and understanding the market like I do, I think we've got a bit of a different edge. But yeah, I can just see it continuing and building. The more that we do and the more that we speak to people, it just seems like a great option.
It is. Between the three arms of the business, is there one that pulls and attracts the prospects in the most?
I think, the workplace event that we've just been at for 3 days, amazing event. I've had the best time. I think technology and the app has by far been the most questions. So people have come up to us and go, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And we've had like pop-up signs with all the information on. It's caused the most amount of curiosity with attendees at the event, and they've said, like, can you tell me a bit more about how this works? And people that have been through a TUPE process, like if you've been through it, you'll understand it. Most people's opinion of it and experience is terrible, because it's such a grey area, and if you mention it, people go, oh, and they shy away from it. So yeah, it's definitely been the kind of biggest conversation that we've had over the last, 3 days, but probably the start of this year, it's been the biggest part of our business.
So do you think you're going to be anchoring more attention, effort and resource into that arm of the business?
I mean, I think for me, it's my specialism. So I've done a lot on tutor consultations and I've transitioned quite a lot of people. I'd probably say I've done about 60,000 in my career, so that's quite a big number. So for me, it's my kind of brainchild and it's my passion project. So I've built it and invested in it personally because I know it's a problem and I know that we can do better, and as an industry we need to. So I think the technology's got my pull. The recruitment business is absolutely fine. They've got really great people in there, and we're working with some really cool clients. So I know those guys are absolutely fine. And I've actually got there's another member of the team, Donna, who is amazing. She's ex-head of workplace from ITV. If you want to look Donna up, she's really, really cool. So I know that team's also in safe hands. So for me, I probably need to focus on my project, my pet project, as we call it. So yeah, technology is where it's at for me.
There we go. And you mentioned artificial intelligence. You deliver it very effectively for clients. What are these sort of innovations that you're really keeping a watchful eye on for the business over the next 6 or so months?
That's a good question. I think for us, developing that product is probably where I'm going to focus, and I think that's where we're going to invest most of our time. I think what I have more conversations around, like the next big thing for me, is around bidding. So in our sector and in our business, actually, one of the things that we do or used to do a lot of is helping people write and win business.
Yeah.
And traditionally, you'd have bid writers and you'd have business development managers that's kind of thinking of all of that kind of salesy element. But actually now we're seeing a lot more people using AI and using generative functionality to kind of actually take some of the heavy lifting of bid writing away, which is arguably like the most time consuming, it's the most labor intensive. If you have lots of different people writing lots of different parts, you can tell because it's not succinct and it's not in the same tone of voice. And I'm actually a non-exec director of a tech startup. There's a couple of uni students, Sam Aaron and Jamie Horsnell, if you get to have a look at them.
What university?
And they are, pardon?
Which university?
Oh, I couldn't tell you which university, not off the top of my head, but they're
local university.
It's not Birmingham, no, they're down south, and I do give them a bit of stick because if they were from Birmingham, it would be obviously so much better.
How did you come into contact with them?
Pardon?
How did you get into contact with them?
They actually approached me. So they approached me online because of the industry experience I've got on my background, and said, actually, you're probably someone we want to talk to because this is your bread and butter. We've built this bidding tool for the FM industry. We think this is a good idea. Can you tell us what you think? And I think it's a really good idea. And some of the case studies that have come out from their products, they've managed to reduce the average bid time by 80%. So the clients that they've implemented with have needed 80% less labour to be able to churn a bid out. And last time we met, they told me that one of their clients that had their platform from August last year has won every single bid that they've put in since. And that's an amazing case study, incredible, in terms of the result. So I think they're going to do really well. And I think again that's going to be the future. You're not going to see people slugging out until 12 o'clock at night writing bids. Well, that's it's normally a lot later really, but yeah, it's just going to remove so much of the monotony. It's not going to take away the thought leadership though, and I think that's where we need to focus more of our time. It's actually on the thinking, take some of the mundane away and focus more on all of that interaction and that thought leadership piece. But yeah, that's where things are going.
It sounds like an incredible opportunity, and fundamentally the best businesses look to solve problems and gaps within the market to eradicate the issues. And so you mentioned that there. Do you have AI tools that you're using right now to help with your own growth and business development?
Yeah, so we've got we've been looking at our tech stack internally. So for example, things like project plans and how we build those up. So we've got functionality of AI that we can we can get AI to build things for us as opposed to doing it manually. We've got AI in content creation, so we use it to help us in developing content, whether that's videos, whether that's using kind of Pressmaster software. And we also use things like Lemlist. We think Lemlist is a really good tool. That's around automation, not necessarily AI, but it does help you generate leads and onboard clients more consistently. And it's not always AI. Sometimes it's around automation. So how can you make a process quicker? What are your touch points and how do you move through those? And yeah, like I said, it's quite interesting in our business because we've got three elements that are so diverse. It's actually how do you engage all of those audiences? So we've been looking at bringing things together, again, through that tech stack to kind of automate the connections between them and identify links. Actually, if we're doing one thing in one business, how do we translate that into another and give our clients the best of what we've got as opposed to just one element through one arm.
Mm-hmm. And with everything that you're working on there, what do you see to be the biggest challenge with regards to setting it all up and putting it together for you?
I mean, if you asked me that last year before we had all of this set up, the biggest challenge for me was time. I'm really time poor, and I have been because I've been trying to spin so many hats all the time. And I think that's been the biggest challenge for me, is just having the mental capacity to be able to sit down and think things through and put everything together. But now having done that, the benefits are now that we can scale, and now that I know there's no kind of invoices aren't going to get missed and we're not going to have data going out the door and everything's really synced up together. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge for me has been headspace. Or if it's not that, it's having the right people around you. That's really the fundamental thing that's made the biggest difference to me, is having the right people around you. Because if you don't have the headspace, there's probably somebody sat next to you that can carry some of that burden for you. And that has been the most transformational thing that I've done in the last 12 months is kind of having a mix of people and having the right people in the right places.
And arcing all the way back to your definition of growth, initially you mentioned personal development, self-development. Tying that into the essence of the core of this podcast, Grappling Growth, you mentioned being time poor. How has the explosive growth of the business in the last year, 18 months, affected you personally in the sense of what you're able to do with your own personal development?
That's a good question. I say this sometimes. I think that I've become allergic to stress. So what I would have found stressful a couple of years ago versus what I find stressful now, I think I'm pretty unflappable. I've had some really close moments and really uncomfortable moments in the last couple of years, and it gives you a different view. And there's a lady that works for me and she's incredible. She is my right hand person, and she sits with me through everything. She knows everything about the business. And I think together we have overcome some really difficult challenges. And we've been in the trenches together. And I think we're probably trauma bonded now, if I'm quite honest. But again, it's about, for me, that's personal growth. That's okay. I've come through that. I've got out the other side, and it changes your perception on things. So, and we always say if I'm upset or if I'm stressed, something's really, really wrong, because we've been through all of this big stuff together, and now we're probably a little bit more hardened. And we've had to do that for various reasons, whether that's been finances haven't been right, whether people hasn't been right, and actually coming through that. It gives you another lens, I think, and it gives you another lens of what's important and what's not. And I always now make I've got a 10-year-old little boy. Well, I say he's 10. He's 10 in July. He might as well be 18 at this point, the amount of cheek I get off him. But I make a conscious effort. We have holidays, we have time together, because I don't want to look back and not feel like I've done enough. So, I've learned to manage stress very well, and I've learned that your family is your most important, and you shouldn't overlook that.
Would you say you learned that lesson recently, or that was a principle you've had for a very long time? I know you mentioned you grew up on a farm, so maybe you have something from there imprinted.
I grew up on a farm, so I'm very I'm conscious about the environment and leaving the world in a better place than what we came in. Something my dad always said to me that I've always resonated with. I had a really horrendous health scare in 2022. So I was paralysed for 6 months, in a coma for 3, and only got out of hospital in January 23. So when we talk about this growth and what I've done, it's actually been from a horizontal start, quite literally. So I was on a Zimmer frame in January 23, which isn't socially acceptable at my age. Won't say how old I am, but yeah, it's not socially acceptable.
What happened, if you don't mind me asking?
I had something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a really rare reaction. It's an autoimmune reaction. So I think we had gastroenteritis, and rather than my body attacking what was wrong, it attacked my nervous system, so my body shut down. So over the course of like a day and a half, 2 days, I went from being fine to rush to hospital. We're going to have to put you into an induced coma. You're going to be really ill. And I was told I wouldn't walk again. I was told I was paralysed. It was very, very traumatic. And I had to have kind of a lot of blood plasma transfusion. So I now do a lot of campaigning for the NHS around plasma because that's important to me. But I'm absolutely fine now. But again, that gave me another element of grit. Like, when somebody says you're not going to walk again, I could have quite easily kind of, spirals, but I'm not that sort of person. I was like, hold my drink, I'm going to walk again. And I kind of did the whole, I don't know if anyone's seen Matilda, when you're kind of willing yourself to move. I was doing that with my feet. And it worked. I'm not condoning that's the only reason. I think it was the plasma that made me better. But again, it gives you another element of what's important. When you've got nothing and you're in hospital and you can't move, people that come to see you and give you their time, that's important. And that's what's valuable to me now. People giving me their time and their attention.
Blown away. Wow, that's incredible, and that's inspiring as well. You're the female Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you're familiar with him.
Yeah, it is. Do you know what? I know I don't want to sound bad, but like what we've done and what we've managed to do in the time that we've done it, from the depravity of being paralysed, and I was a giant baby, I couldn't move at all. I don't know how it's happened, but it's happened, and I wouldn't change it for a second. I even wouldn't change what happened to me because I think it's made me think differently and be a different sort of character. But it's quite surreal. It is a little bit surreal to look back and where we are now. It's it's a testament to the people I've got around me now in the business and what we do, I think. But we just want to do good work, leave the planet in a better place, develop people along the way. It's not going to be perfect, but we'll have a good go.
Well, I think you should consider adding author to your LinkedIn banner.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about author. I don't think I've got the time to write a book.
Not now.
Not now. Maybe one day.
But when your son's off to uni and that's a way to end the show. Emma, thank you so much. What's next for you, and where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very annoying. I post all the time. I always joke about that because I do post my journey. I'm very real about what happens, whether it's good or bad. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Emma Armstrong. I'm wearing a beige blazer with a bright pink background, so you can't miss me. And what's next? I don't know. I feel like I'm on an exciting journey. There's so much more I want to achieve. I'm constantly having ideas daily. The team keeps shouting at me not to have any more ideas or start any other businesses. So I'm going to stick with what we've got, but there is definitely more to come. So watch this space.
Emma, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Joe. See you later.